Hello and welcome to a little crafting with me, Annie. It's the 15th of October 2020 and we've got a lovely autumn day here in Surrey, so I thought I'd take an opportunity to record. Just to introduce myself, I've been an avid crafter for most of my life, so I'm keen on absolutely everything from jewellery making, colouring, dabbled in watercolours, painting, needlecraft, and my big thing at the moment, that has been my big thing for the last 3 years, is knitting. I've obviously dipped my toe into a few different things, and I'll talk about that at the end of this episode, but I'm going to kind of focus on fibre today because that's my jam. I was taught to knit, I think about 4 years ago, by my sister-in-law, and she really gave me the bug. Plus I have a craft group locally here in Surrey. We used to meet kind of every couple of weeks at someone's house. At the moment we're specifically limited to Zoom, but that really has helped spur on my enthusiasm for knitting over the years, and for kind of all crafts really, but most of us are knitters or crocheters, so fibre arts are generally our thing overall. Enough about me. I'm sure you want to hear about what I've been making. So first of all, what am I wearing? And I'll move up a little bit in my chair so that you can see a bit more. So this is the Arboreal by Jennifer Steingass, and I've seen lots of different podcasters and people making this jumper. I knit this, or I finished it in May, so just after lockdown, or kind of continued knitting it through lockdown in the UK up until May when I finished it off. This was supposed to be my skiing jumper last year. I've kind of made a bit of a tradition that I knit a jumper every year for when my husband and I go skiing, but I didn't finish it then. It is knit out of West Yorkshire Spinners Wensleydale Gems in the amber and the natural colour. And although I absolutely love the colour of this yarn, it's really just a lovely shade of orange, kind of burnt orange colour. I found it really difficult to knit with, and I feel like it has a bit of a straw-like texture, so I'm not a massive fan of this yarn, which was the reason it took me so long to actually complete. Usually I'll do a sweater, this is DK weight, usually I'll do a worsted weight sweater and it takes me about 3 weeks. So I was quite put off by the yarn, and what I've noticed since finishing it off is that it just has so much fluff to it. You can't really see on camera, but basically I can just brush my arm a bit here and I'll end up with these clumps of fluff. So I'm not sure how to stop that. I might try de-pilling the sweater and just use my gleaner on it to see if that helps. But I do, now that I've finished it, I do absolutely love the sweater. I just have to be careful what else I wear with it, because otherwise I just end up with orange fluff everywhere. And I'm really pleased with the size, but I just did not enjoy knitting it because of the yarn. So I don't think I'd knit anything with this yarn again, although I am a big fan of West Yorkshire Spinners overall. I do really like their yarn. I think it's affordable, it's nice, it's British wool, so local to me, and therefore I do like to support them. Just don't fancy Wensleydale apparently. So that's what I'm wearing. Moving on to what I have been making recently. So lockdown in the UK has really spurred me on in terms of making sweaters. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the Throwback cardigan. Just reach down here. So this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. Again, I've seen lots of people making this one on Ravelry. It's a very popular pattern, and I have only knit one cardigan before, so it's really nice actually to have another just throw on cardigan which isn't necessarily going to have to go over my head to, for example, mess up my hair, and just chuck on when it's cold, particularly coming up to winter when I'm going to be working from home, and we'll try and keep the heating bill down with some knitwear. So the Throwback cardigan, I'm knitting it out of West Yorkshire Spinners Shetland Croft. My main colour is the Belmont, and the other three colours that I have are the Melby, Feltar, and the last colour is a Croft Aran tweed, which is in the Eswick. So I'll show you where I've got to so far. And basically I was a bit undecided about knitting this cardigan, because I wasn't particularly eager to purl colour work, but actually I found it fine in the end. I did a swatch and ultimately thought I'll go ahead with the standard way. The other option was to knit it in the round and then steek it, but I'm still a bit nervous about trying that. One of the girls in my craft group has just started to knit a sweater that she's going to steek, which will be really interesting to find out her experiences on that. But yeah, I really love these colours actually. I'll just try and show it to you without kind of putting the sweater in front of my face. But the Melby is the orange, the Feltar is the green, and the Eswick is the kind of speckled tweedy greeny blue. There we go. So yeah, you can see those lovely autumnal colours. There's a bit of a theme going on today for sure. I am a bit addicted to knitting things with this kind of orangey, burnt orange colour, or sort of similar browns. So you'll see a bit of a theme in that. So I've done the yoke, and then I've split for the sleeves, and I've started knitting the body, which is just stockinette. But obviously you're knitting one row, purling the next, because it's knit flat rather than in the round. I'm finding that my needles might be a bit big for the stockinette section. I haven't changed sizes since doing the yoke, so I might try and rip this back and go down a size to see what effect that has, because it shouldn't take me too long to redo. But I am knitting this on 4mm higher sharps, which are my needle of choice. I tend to have to go down significantly in needle sizes versus the patterns, because I'm a really loose knitter now. I remember when I started I was a very tight knitter, but now I'm super loose. So I'll see what happens if I go down a few needle sizes for the body. It's a little bit looser than I'd like in terms of the stockinette section. It'll be hard to show because it's such a dark colour, but you can kind of see there I've got a bit of space, whereas I'd prefer not to. So that's my first one. I've been knitting it for a couple of weeks, but I'm hoping I'll have it finished fairly soon, so that I get some good wear out of it during autumn and then into winter. And there we go. Absolutely love the look of the pattern. I really like this kind of zigzag across the yoke, and I'm really excited to have it done. I just want it to be right. So you'll see I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to knitting things. I'm quite happy to rip out what I've done to redo it in order to make it right, except with this sweater that I'm wearing, where I just kind of carried on full pelt. So yeah, that's the Throwback. What I will say, and I haven't mentioned before, is I'm actually a mirror knitter. So that means I effectively knit left-handed or in the mirror compared to other people. I believe I am a continental knitter, but effectively I will knit in the opposite direction to most people. So I hold my needle in my left hand and then my knitting in my right hand, and I knit by putting the left hand needle into my knitting and then knitting around and pulling through, whereas most people knit the opposite way. So one of the things that I've had to learn over time since I started learning to knit is how to adjust to knitting in a different way. I know that certain stitches I have to swap round, so when I do cables, for example, flat, what will end up happening is that the cable will be the opposite to the way that it shows in the pattern when I've knit it. And certain stitches like knit two together or slip slip knit, I may have to swap round depending on whether I'm working flat or in the round. So I might do a couple of videos on how to deal with those types of things if you have learned to knit in the same way as I have, which is in opposite directions, or in the mirror it's called. And there's a couple of really good groups on Ravelry where they have a lot of tips and tricks, but I've found there's not that many things on YouTube to show how you actually need to knit this way. So you'll see I'll explain a few things where it actually matters and makes a difference. Moving on to other things that I'm knitting at the moment, and one of them is the Festival of Stitches shawl. So this was a mystery knit along by Lisa Hannes, which I actually started in May, but I've been very, very slow at this one. It's a really, really lovely knit, and there's different sections along, which I really like the idea of. So hopefully everyone who has been taking part of the MCAL has at least seen the pictures by now, so I won't be spoiling anything for you. But it starts in the center, so I've gone for 3 colors. The red is Pro Lana Avellino, that was a skein that I picked up in Germany. The kind of browny colour, or the gingerbready colour I'm calling it because this looks very Christmassy, is Tannery on the Hiddleston base by Mr. B's yarn. And the other one is also a Mr. B's colourway. This is Stella Bella, which is kind of an ecru colour with some specks of sort of the Tannery colour in it and some orange. So yeah, you start in the middle and then kind of fan out into this stripy sort of candy cane section for me. And then you go along and you do a bit of lace. Then you've got some slip stitch colour work, which Lisa Hannes is pretty famous for. Some cables, then some more lace, and these are little droplets. Actually, that way around is better for you to see. And then finally a twisted rib, which looks really nice at the end. And then the other side is all the way along there. Then do your lace again. The slip stitch colour work is actually in the opposite direction, so the white and the red switch round on this side. Then I've got a red cabled section, which is just gorgeous. I love the way this red comes out on cables. And then droplets in white. And then you can see I'm almost at the end here, but I think I'll have it done in a couple of days. So I'm just on the ending, which is the rib on this side in the kind of, in the Tannery colour by Mr. B. And I am knitting this in 3mm higher sharp needles. So really loving that, but it's taken a while. Hopefully done by Christmas, because my colours I realised quite quickly after I started knitting on that kind of stripy section that they were very Christmassy. So it might be my Christmas jewel, we'll see. Taking my time with it. I'm sure I will have a lot of ends to weave in at the end, so I'm not looking forward to that. That might take me a little while. And I am keeping this in a bag which I got from Clara Rose Crafts on Etsy. She makes absolutely lovely bags. This is a Marauders Map fabric one. You'll see I also love red, so a few colours that feature for me, red and orange. And I really like that she adds these little stitch markers on the end. I'm not sure if I can make this focus. I might have to put it in front of my face. There we go. So this is a broomstick, and they're just gorgeous. I can see how much she's learned over the years in terms of like improving the way that she does the bags, because she now puts these lovely handles on, and it's just, I need more of these, but I have too many already. So what else am I making? And my next one, also in a Clara Rose Crafts bag, and this is a Beauty and the Beast one. You can see you've got the gorgeous fabric. I would love to have more bags in this fabric, and she's got a little rose in there. These are some custom socks for my husband, and I haven't knit him socks before. So I recently knit a toe-up pair of socks for myself, and he decided that it was actually quite a nice idea, because you can try the sock on. I say I haven't knit him socks. I have knit him socks. They were too small. I wear them. So this is Retrossaria Mondim in the blue, and the toe at the moment is Filcolana Arwetta Classic, which in just a light grey. And I'm doing a bit of a 3x1 rib just to make it a bit stretchy for him, because he has quite wide feet. I'm really liking the yarn, but he possibly might say it's a bit scratchy. We'll see what it's like when it's washed up, but I really hope that these will fit him well. I think the benefit of doing toe up is that you can try on. So he's tried these on a couple of times. I actually redid the toe at one point because it was too wide, and yeah, going well so far. These are kind of just a whenever I don't feel like knitting anything else knit, just quite quick and easy, mindless knitting. These are on a 2mm needle, and actually I think that's a bit big for my knitting style. So I've got higher sharps here that I'm using, and the reason that I'm doing them in 2mm needles is because I can't get a smaller size in higher sharp, and I started these a while ago. However, I did find out that I could get 1.75mm needles from Ciel, so I've got some of those that I'm going to try on my next pair of socks. Obviously at this point I'm going to carry on knitting these the way that they are. It's really interesting to find out that I literally couldn't go down a needle size when I was testing out the previous socks that I made, but we'll see. I'm doing okay for now. I hope the gauge won't be too loose for when my husband tries them on. That's that. And finally, things that are works in progress. My next one is the Starflanket blanket by Stephen West. So I have made this center section before. Oops, wrong way around. Look, it's orange, like everything else. Yeah, I have knit this center section before, but I did it with an orange and a kind of teal colour, and I decided that I didn't like the two together, so I've swapped them for the orange and the grey. I am still going to use the teal, so that's this one, but in another section of the blanket. So I've got a long way to go. This is just the beginning, but that's, you know, a nice project to have, I think, for winter. I am knitting this in Willow Lark Ramble, which I think is an own brand of Lovecrafts. And the colours are, the orange is colour 112, the grey is colour 137, the kind of natural colour is 102, and I don't think I have the ball band for the kind of jade teal colour, but I'll find out and put it in the show notes. And once again, needle sizes, so I am knitting this on 3.5mm needles. The parallelograms are actually really nice and easy to knit. Something that I've been doing recently is playing D&D with my friends, so Dungeons and Dragons, with friends on a Saturday afternoon, because lockdown happened and we couldn't have friends round to play board games. My husband and I are big board game fans. And I always have knitting with me when I'm playing D&D, just because there's so much time when you're thinking about what you're going to do, when other people are acting and you're trying to, or listen to the story. So I thought it was a good idea to have knitting, and I'm perfectly happy knitting a parallelogram for this blanket during that session, or doing stockinette on a sweater. That always works as well. Or socks. So I always save certain things for D&D on a Saturday afternoon. Because this is another Clara Rose bag. So this is one of her earlier ones that I bought. It's an Alice in Wonderland themed bag. It's got a lot of fluff on it. But yeah, same sort of thing. She's got the kind of larger charms or stitch markers. There you go, that's Alice. It's just really nice, I think, as an idea. So that's everything I'm working on. I'll show you what I've made during the summer though. With lockdown and not being able to do much, I have been knitting quite a lot, and things that I would say are unexpected for me as well. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this lovely thing, and I absolutely adore this sweater. This is the Jupiter crop by Caitlin Hunter, and like I said, you've probably seen quite a few people knitting this sweater, and I just thought it looked absolutely amazing when she brought it out earlier this year. The colour work is completely my jam, although I would not normally knit something with all over colour work, and I also would not normally knit something cropped. But I thought with a dress, actually, for during the summer on a colder evening, I think it's a really nice top to just throw over a dress. And it was so fast to knit. I just absolutely went for it, because you've got all these colour changes, all these different sections to knit. It just spurs you on, keeps you going until the next colour and the next colour and the next colour. So I think I knit this in a couple of weeks, and considering colour work is slower than just stockinette, I think that was pretty good going. I have knit this in Dererum Natura Ulysse, and it's fast becoming my favourite yarn. the colours are Tempette, which is the dark blue, Ciel, which is the light blue, so you can see that just on here, Confiture de rose, which is the pink, Quartz, which is the kind of lighter pink. You can almost not see that it's pink, it almost looks a bit creamy, but it is a very light shade of pink. And then Ciel, which is the white. And I absolutely love it. I even have a denim jumpsuit that I'm planning on wearing over the top, which I specifically bought to wear with this sweater. Partly because I would really love a pair of dungarees, but I don't think they suit me at all, so I thought a jumpsuit would be a nice way to go. And yeah, just amazing. I might wear this on the next podcast that I do. Yeah, it's probably the sweater that I've knit that I'm the most proud of, because the colours are great, the yarn is lovely, it hardly took me any time, and I'm just going to keep wearing it and wearing it because I love it. So, good job. Yeah, I want to knit another one next year, but maybe leave it a while before knitting all over colour work. And I think I already know the colours I'm going to choose as well. So that is that one. Next, again, something you'll find surprising for me is that I finished a few pairs of socks. So the first pair is some Fragment socks. And this is a pattern by Helen Stewart. It was in Lane magazine, I think it was issue 4, but I'll correct that if I'm wrong. But I believe you can still buy this pattern directly from her. So it's a really lovely kind of cable pattern. Let me show you. There we go. So you can see it's kind of a one line cable across, and it does make these kind of parallelograms. Hey ho, another theme. And it was a really easy knit. But I really like to have some sort of interest in my sock knitting. I don't like to do vanilla because I just get bored. So I like to have something that keeps me going to the next step and the next step. Got a heel flapper gusset, and the yarn is Regia tweed, and just a random mini that I had for the blue, but I thought it went together. You can see the tweed's really nice actually. There we go. Lovely speckles. And yeah, these just flew off my needles, so I'm very happy with them. However, they are a bit big, I will say. I think that's something to do with my needle size again. I should have probably done something to adjust the number of stitches so that they would be a bit smaller, but I'll see if someone else wants them. They might end up being a gift knit. The next thing that I knit, again you'll see a theme, is another pair of socks. So I am just showing you one because I've only got 2 sock blockers and 2 pairs of socks, but this is the Heart Nut Socks pattern by Knox Mountain Knit Co. And I test knit the Heart Nut hat about a year ago, it must be, or more, and I love the stitch pattern. Anyway, hopefully you can see that. So again, super quick. I did use the 2mm needles, but what I had to do was adjust the pattern. So I took 6 stitches out from each side, just so that this would actually end up fitting me and not be too loose. The yarn is Lang Yarn's Jowl, and a mini skein by Beehive Yarns in her Audrey base. I think this is the Sandpiper colourway, but these minis don't actually come with the colourways attached, but I've had some more of her yarn that I believe this is the same. So yeah, really lovely knit. I'd highly recommend you knit this if you want something that's a sock but is a bit more interesting. It does just fly, it's very mindless despite the fact that it's got cables. And I knit my cables without a cable needle because I just find that faster. So yeah, heart nut socks. Absolutely my favourite socks. I have hardly worn them though because they just look too pretty. So I don't want to wear any holes in, but I'll try to wear them over the winter a bit more when it's colder. So there we go. The last bit of knitting for today is the Artist Garden socks. So this was a really fun knit, and I've got a huge stash of minis, so I just grabbed a few that I thought would go together and then cast on. And what you do is you hold the yarns triple or double to create a mild effect. The pattern's by Tiff Nealon, and I really had fun making these. My only issue was that I ran out of the colours that I was using, so you'll notice that, oh, getting blown out a bit, these do not match exactly, although the colours are similar. I'll try and hold them up in front. There we go. The colours are similar, but they don't match exactly. Oh, I don't mind that. They're just fun. I still need to weave in the ends. I've got this coming off the top. But they, again, super quick, really easy and fun to knit. The colour changes just spur you on. And these are going to be great slippers. So I knit them without the toe, just because I wanted them as kind of yoga socks rather than actual socks. There you go. Right, that's all the knitting. Now on to another craft, a fibre art craft which I do, and that is weaving. So I have a 16-inch rigid heddle loom, and I started weaving just over a year ago. I saw a loom on the British Heart Foundation eBay, and I thought, you know what, I've wanted a loom for a while, why not buy one from a charity rather than at full price from a shop? So I got myself a loom, and I've had so much fun trying different things. I gave all of my family scarves for Christmas, which I think they really loved. I've been loving trying different techniques, different yarns, seeing what happens when you use something different for the warp than the weft. And I'm really eager to learn a lot. So I just wanted to show you a couple of scarves which I've made recently. It's partly because of the yarn that I used. So I got a cake rather than a skein of Belmont yarns at a local fibre festival to me, Unravel in Farnham. And these are absolutely gorgeous gradient skeins. I can't remember where she's from, but she has a page on Etsy where she sells her yarn cakes, but you can also buy yarn from Tribe Yarns in Richmond. They have a website too. So I bought this gradient cake thinking that would be absolutely amazing to weave with, and it really was, because again, for me, something that spurs me on, that keeps me going, that makes me want to move on to the next colour and the next colour and the next colour, just stops me from being distracted, I would say. So this is my scarf, and sorry, it's a bit crinkled. Let's try the other side. So it starts off pink, and then it goes along and it changes to grey. Goes along again, kind of starts to go into blue, and then finally kind of goes to jade at the end, or teal. Really lovely colour. And this is a plain weave. So what I've done is actually used a plain grey, I think fingering weight yarn for the warp, and then woven with the gradient for the weft. And it's really nice and soft. I think if I remember, the weft was a drops merino. I think it's more like sport weight actually when it comes out. And I have been doing a lot of weaving with sport weight because I use Ulysse by Dererum Natura quite a lot. But yeah, it's lovely scarf. I really love this. I'm obsessed with gradients now, as you'll see in a minute. So yeah, it does come out quite pricey, I would say, because you're spending, what, £24 on a skein of Belum. But I didn't use all of the gradient in this because I miscalculated. So I do have a section of the pink still that I might weave something else with. And yeah, I use a 10 DPI reed. That's generally good for fingering and sport weight. That's my favourite, just for the way that the texture ends up, which I'll show you actually, if I can. Come on, camera. There we go. It's just a really nice fabric. So yeah, so that was the first one I did during lockdown. And again, I haven't been particularly inventive since then. So I thought I would try a different yarn that also had a gradient, and that is a Shopel Zauberball. But this one is the Zauberball Starker, which it says is DK, but I think it's closer to sport weight. And I really can't remember what colourway that it is, but if I do, I'll put it in the down bar. So what I started with was trying a clasped weft. You'll see these kind of weaves quite a bit, where you use two different colours and you pull them through. Sorry, my husband's doing something upstairs. So you use two different colours and you pull them through each other to create this kind of double coloured weave with a sort of zigzag effect in the middle. So I was just testing this out, and the good thing about weaving is that you can test something out and then you can switch. So long as you've done a full warp, you can do a little bit of something, try something else. My warp is a Knit Picks sport weight. I think it's one of the Andes sport weight actually. And after that section, all I did was I went, okay, I'm gonna make a scarf out of this. Let's start a plain weave. So you'll see, there we go. Okay. How do I show you this in a good way? It's really hard. But yeah, you can kind of see the colour changes. Let me block my face out for a bit. There. And I might just put it on to show you. So I've found with weaving it's quite different to knitting, because you end up adding quite a lot of colour with the warp. So what happens is when you think about the colours that you're using, so say for example in the white, you can see that there's a lot of the blue coming through where I've woven. So you should really consider that when you're deciding on what to do. But I think it blends really nicely with the colour that I've used for the weave. So yeah, another nice scarf. I don't know who I'm going to give these to, but probably someone. And then what I've been doing today is another Belum Yarns scarf, or rather what I've finished today because I started this a while ago. Sorry, a bit of a crinkle there. And this is another ball of Sneck, but one that I ordered from Tribe Yarns. And this has a bit of a story because when this arrived, the postman was very apologetic, but effectively something had spilled in the mail. And he kind of handed me this bundle that was no longer a package, but literally just bits falling out of a selection. And it had been damaged by some sort of chemical. Someone had obviously posted some acetone or bleach or something. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, it doesn't really matter. I can wash the yarn. I'll just do that and it'll be fine. And little did I know that because this was either acetone or bleach or something like that, that when it had spilled, it had not only wet the yarn but also discoloured it and damaged it in some places. So really not wanting to just throw away the yarn and wanting to use this beautiful yarn that someone had hand dyed, I thought, I know, if I'm weaving with it, it doesn't matter, because I can make sure the gradient stays but cut the sections out that aren't so great. So I do still have some work to do on this. I've just cut it off the loom, but I've got some bits to tidy up because of that. And I spent an afternoon washing and winding and repairing this skein of yarn, or ball of yarn, but I think it looks pretty good anyway. So let's start with the other end. So this is the middle of the ball, and again I've woven this on a grey. This is Ulysse, so you can see it goes to pink, and more pink, and then into purple, and then it would carry on to blue and then green, but again I miscalculated. Constant thing. It's really hard with scarves because I know you can do a calculation, and I really do like the idea of using up a skein in one scarf, but I also don't want an enormous scarf. So this one's already pretty long. Let me have a look. If I show you, there we go. And I haven't done anything to the ends yet. I'm waiting for my fringe twister to arrive. I'll be twisting those fringes. That's my favourite way of finishing things off. Right, so that's everything I've been making. Let me show you what I've acquired over the last few months. So my husband and I went to the Peak District a couple of weeks ago, and we went on lots of walks, did some rock climbing, which we love. And I always, when we go on a trip, tend to pop into a local yarn shop. So I went to So and So in Buxton, and they kind of had a one person at a time only and not actually allowed into the shop situation, but I could see some beautiful yarn in the window. And the first one of these is Peak District yarns. So I really wanted something that kind of reminded me of the Peak District. And I thought these colours looked really great in terms of kind of comparing them to the heather and the colours in the Peak District. This is called Blackwell Well Dressing. And yeah, it's hand dyed in the Peak District. It is 80% Blueface Leicester and 20% nylon. And it's a 4-ply high twist, 365 meters, hand dyed in Tideswell. There you go, Peak District yarns. There we go. I am not sure what I'm going to do with this. I think I'll probably do some sort of single skein shawl, just to make the most of it. And sorry, my husband is shouting stuff upstairs. Okay. The other thing that I have that I bought at So&So in Buxton was the West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colourway. So this is their signature 4-ply, but this time it has sparkles. And yeah, just again, other colours that I love. Blue. There is a lot of blue in my life. So I had to get this, and you get the pattern with it as well to make the socks for Christmas. So these will definitely be my Christmas knitting. It's 4-ply, 75% wool and 23% nylon, and the 2% polyester to do the sparkles, but yay, sparkles. I just think it's great. It looks like the night sky. I just love it. I'm really looking forward to knitting these. They might be for my husband again, I'm not sure. Other acquisitions, so I do really like Beehive Yarns and Mr. B Yarns in the UK. Mr. B is on Etsy. Beehive Yarns has her own website. She used to be on Etsy as well. But she recently posted that she was having a bit of a sale. So I had to kind of put my hands on some of the yarn. And actually pretty out of my comfort zone, I would say. I went for some of her Dolly DK. This one is Atomic Flamingo. It's just a really gorgeous kind of turquoise with lots of other speckles. And I thought, to go with that, I'm gonna have a really neon pink, which again is just not me at all. But I think I had in mind to do some brioche with these two. So I think together they'll be really nice. The pink is Pretty Vacant. Yeah, love those. And then I also got is Beehive Yarns Barbarella in the Rose Lichen base. And this is a base that I've had before. Oh sorry, a colour that I've had before. And I really love it. And it's got a bit of sparkle. Loving the sparkle. But yeah, it's basically a very muted pink with kind of pops of green. I like pink and green together. I'm not sure what it is about that. They were my wedding colours, so that probably explains it a bit. But yeah, not sure what I'm going to do with this, but I loved it, so I had to have it. And then finally, this is Lust for Life in the Audrey base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And it's a grey with lots of pops of colour, which I think is gorgeous. And I love Beehive Yarns' logo. I'll put it in front of my face. There we go. Just amazing. She always makes her packages really lovely as well, so she'll wrap it really nicely and add some tea and sometimes some little bee stitch markers. So I really like receiving yarn from her. Yeah, absolutely love it. And I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope there'll be more of these podcasts. And yeah, I'll be doing this again. Have a lovely week. Bye.